Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to our supporting parents and families in the age of COVID session this evening. I want to thank everyone for taking time to be with us. I'm Ken Batchelor, the superintendent of Radnor Township School District, and our school district has had a focus on wellness now for many years. Pre-COVID, our school board identified student wellness as a district goal that has continued even through now COVID, and it's continued for the last couple of years. Obviously, with everything we are experiencing now as a community and as a country and as a world, as we're dealing with COVID-19, wellness for our kids has taken is we're looking at it in a lot different light, obviously, and we're also looking at it when we think about our staff and as we think about our community. And so we have been lucky in Radnor to have this focus on wellness in the age of COVID and been working and provided opportunities to support our staff. And we have Troy Brindle, who's going to be working with our students as well and has already been working with our staff. And tonight's our opportunity to have some time to support our families. So I want to just thank the administrative team for everything they've done to put this together. And I'll turn it over to Kara Miller to give the introductions for Troy Brindle. So thank you, Kara.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the parent workshop. I'm honored to introduce Troy Brindle tonight. He's coming from Springfield Psychological. It's the largest private group in behavioral health in the area. Earlier this school year, he also spoke to our staff, and we realized as a district that it's needed for the community and parents to focus on self-care. We recognize that some of the negative behaviors that come out of COVID-19 and this pandemic does impact our home and our children. So that's why we're servicing the community tonight. So we recognize and we thank Troy for coming tonight. The chat will be open. George Regal and I will be monitoring it. So feel free to ask any questions or comment on any of the content tonight. So thank you. And Troy, it's time to start.
Okay, that sounds great. So we've been in lots and lots of transitions, and I think that we've all been challenged over the last several months. Some of us may have been challenged before if you have teenagers like I do. So that pre-existing challenge is always there, but it is a privilege to be here tonight. And with many of the transitions that have occurred, I'm very excited to be sharing with the parents of Radnor School District and families just some ideas and strategies and tips on how we can continue to manage the current situation that we're in, and also the pending months to come in light of COVID-19. So one of the things that we know is, we've had to deal with so many changes brought on by the coronavirus. Schools are providing online education across all grade levels. They're transitioning to a hybrid model over the last, couple of months. Kids are going to school on alternate days, rotating days. Teachers are teaching to a remarkable level. We have had to quickly adapt to new schedules and different ways of learning, teaching. And on top of everything, we're trying as parents to keep up with the needs of our family, jobs, and sometimes struggling to find a sense of normalcy in the current situation. So there's always concerns around the need for schools to close again and resume virtual learning. And many of us right now, are kind of in that midst. We were talking as a group before tonight's presentation started that, the night before the 13th, which is tomorrow, kind of feels similar to what it did back in March when schools had to close. So many are continuing to juggle everything underneath one roof. And it's important that we need to remember that we're all experiencing this time, this difficult time and situation together. And I need to emphasize, and I would like to emphasize to those who are participating tonight, that situations are not permanent, but they're temporary. And this is a situation that unfortunately we've all been caught up with for several months. So it's understandable to feel overwhelmed. I mean, as a parent, you may need reminders from time to time that practicing self-care is critical, essential. It's important to take care of yourself. If I'm going to take care of my family's needs at home, my wife, my kids, uh, even extended family members, I need to practice self-care, and I need to find time to practice that in my own life. And that's hard to do. Um, One of the first steps in coping successfully in any situation, any crisis that you find yourself in, is to make sure that, just like they say on flights, and for those of us who've had the privilege of traveling, which most of us probably haven't been doing a lot of traveling in several months, you can recall how the flight attendant would say, should the cabin lose pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the overhead area. Please place the mask over your own mouth and nose first and tighten the cord before you can assist anyone else. And the reason for that is because if you don't take care of yourself in that crisis situation, you're going to pass out. You're not going to be able to take care of anyone else. So in that same vein, we have to virtually take care of making sure that that oxygen mask is firmly placed over our nose, our mouth. And the basis of these instructions and why they carry so much weight really stems from the idea that if you try to help someone first before helping yourself, you're going to fail at that, and other people will suffer. So if you take the time to take care of yourself, you'll be in a better position to help those around you who need assistance. And when we only focus on taking care of others, quite often we leave little room left over for ourselves. And that can affect ourselves emotionally, it can affect our mood, it can affect our attitude, it can affect just our overall state, where we just feel frustrated and ineffective. So sometimes when feelings of ineffectiveness arise and you feel helpless and hopeless, that can lead to what is often called compassion fatigue. And I've seen compassion fatigue really, come to the surface in many areas. Teachers, physicians, nurses, the medical world, first responders, counselors, therapists, school administrators, guidance counselors, other admin, and just staff in general. Compassion fatigue is highly draining. So what makes you good at something and committed at something, as far as like being a parent, being committed to your family, your kids, situation, it also can make it the most challenging. A lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to be everything to everybody. And we've all been caught up in a pandemic that has been a severe game changer. Activities and events have really changed significantly. The ability to connect with others has come with caution, and it's very challenging. We care for others because we truly care, and sometimes when we care for others, we forget about our own needs. So let's look at a self-test real quick, and this is just going to be a checklist for you to go through mentally with me tonight. But do you find it difficult to feel hopeful on a regular basis? Does the stress of your kids' lives, those who you work with, affect you personally? Do you find it difficult to process and recover from the daily exhaustion, trauma, situation of your job? Are you left feeling that no matter what you do for your kids, you're not making a meaningful impact? Sometimes we can get caught up in the cycle of helplessness and hopelessness, where we kind of feel like this will never end. It will end. We just don't necessarily have a clarity as far as when that end point is. I can remember initially, and you can remember initially, that we were encouraged that the process would be shut down for 2 weeks. And then the hope was to return to normal, to return back to a sense of normalcy. That 2 weeks has gone on to months and months and months. So finding it difficult to feel settled about things in your personal life, personal business. Do you ever feel that you are withdrawing from family and friends? A lot of people have reported over the pandemic that they've been drinking more, or using recreational drugs, or even drugs that they can purchase, over the counter. Have your sleeping patterns changed? Does it feel like those close to you don't really understand what you're going through? Um, Keep in mind, we're all in this storm together, but we're not in the same boat. People are in different boats. So I like the analogy that we're all going through this pandemic storm together, but we're not all experiencing the same things. So for some, we're worried about different challenges and different obstacles than others. Um, do you feel tired and not getting enough rest? I think we're all finding ourselves being vulnerable to hit that wall at this point. And I am not exempt from that either. There's definitely days that I feel exhausted, tired, and struggling. So, if any of you answered yes to 5 or more of those questions, then you are a candidate for what is known as compassion fatigue. And some of the symptoms, physical symptoms around compassion fatigue, can be headaches, digestive issues, muscle tension, and fatigue. I have a 16-year-old daughter who is in 6th grade, and she was reporting, more chronic headaches since being on digital devices. Now, trust me, 16-year-olds are on digital devices anyway, but now with virtual learning and school and hybrid models, and then even recreationally trying to stay connected to their friends through social media and through different types of outlets, Google Hangout, whatever. The reality is that she was coming to me and complaining about headaches. And I noticed that her uptick in taking, some ibuprofen or aspirin increased. So, we sat down and we kind of talked about it. And one of the strategies that has helped her a lot was getting a special pair of glasses that she can wear that kind of filters out the blue light. And remarkably, within about 10 days, her headaches have stopped, and they've been stopped now for several months. Her digital use has not stopped, but that's a story for a different day. Digestive issues, muscle tension, fatigue, these are all things that are at risk for physical symptoms. Emotional symptoms are, I think, what a lot of us have experienced over the last several months. Sadness, grief. I think grief comes in many forms. Grief of what the norm used to be, grief over the situation that we're finding itself. Some of the grief is dealing with obviously loss, and loss takes myriads of different avenues. Everything from actually losing a loved one to not being able to see loved ones and not being able to spend time with loved ones. And people are rethinking through holidays and gatherings, and there were plenty of weddings canceled or weddings by Zoom. I attended a funeral by Zoom. We've all been thrust to sort of embrace strong emotional elements in our life very differently. And sometimes that can harden us, can cause us to be very non-empathetic. And feelings of dread, can be a part of that. Behavioral impacts. Obviously, I mentioned that for some, the uptick of alcohol use or other drugs, recreational drugs, has increased. Overusing sick days, calling out, disturbances in relationships, shifts in sleeping and sleeping patterns. And then there's cognitive concerns. Folks that are experiencing more fallout from the trauma of this, nightmares, inability to concentrate, questioning beliefs, avoidance. And we've all seen a major uptick in anxiety, which really is a lot of the uncertainty of where we are and where things are going, and fear. So other terms that we can use to describe compassion fatigue that folks might be very familiar with or not so familiar with is burnout. Burnout's a cumulative process marked by emotional exhaustion and withdrawal associated with increased workload and institutional stress. It's not exactly trauma related, but burnout symptoms can differ from compassion fatigue. They're related, but not quite yet the same. Another terminology that we use is vicarious trauma, or what's called secondary trauma. the emotional residue or stain of exposure to working with those suffering from consequences. So, it could be hearing about someone who lost a loved one, hearing about someone who was tested positive for COVID, not, struggling with loved ones who might be in different levels of care. They might be in a nursing home care. They might be in a communal, living environment arrangement and being worried about loved ones. And I think probably the most is the primary traumatic stress. I've done a lot of crisis work over my 27-year career, and one of the most powerful opportunities I had was to go to the World Trade Center up in New York City 3 days after the attacks. And there was a ton of mixture between primary trauma and secondary trauma. Secondary trauma was me in Pennsylvania watching the events unfold in real time, as many of us did. Primary trauma was when I was physically there and I actually saw the overwhelming, aftermath of those attacks and dealing with people who were extremely struggling. They didn't know if their loved ones were alive, if they'd see them again, if they were coming home, they were still trying to recover, folks. So, those are some pretty intense impacts. I believe very strongly that the impact of COVID-19 is going to be far greater than the World Trade Center disaster, because it's affected everybody to both primary and secondary levels. So the stages of burnout that we can go through, or the stages that we can feel, can go from enthusiasm to stagnation to frustration and apathy, and we've all been there. I mean, there's times where the enthusiasm, I think, is hopefully the silver lining. I was enthusiastic to hear the news about Pfizer and some of the cutting edge research that they're doing, and the fact that they may have a viable vaccine to offer, a viable product in play. There's still time to that, but that creates some installation of hope, which we all need. We have all been in situations where we feel emotionally exhausted, mental exhaustion, where we withdraw. One of the things that's really important during COVID-19 is to try to maintain connections with others. And I think I saw people do that a lot more in April and May and June, where people were taking advantage of FaceTime and Zoom and Google Hangouts and Google Meets and you name it to stay connected. And some people still use the phone to call people, or texting, or Facebook, instant messaging. But we've also seen a downtick in that. And I think a lot of that is the Zoom fatigue, the IT fatigue that we're all feeling. Now, after a day of being in a virtual environment, for both students and for adults, you don't feel necessarily like jumping on a FaceTime call as much. But we need to push ourselves to make sure that we're staying connected the best that we can, especially to loved ones at this time. Compassion fatigue typically occurs over time, and it's very similar to burnout. It can affect dimensions of our well-being. It can certainly affect sleep and appetite and other nervous system arousal areas. Emotional intensity can increase. Cognitive ability decreases. Behavior and judgment can become impaired. We can feel more isolated, a sense of loss, and obviously have different symptoms of sadness, depression, loss of self-worth, difficult time regulating and modulating emotions. And it really does just drain us overall. And I think anger and despair is a part of this. We're all at different points in times just fed up with being in this situation. Chronic stress leads to developing compassion fatigue. I want to play this video to the group and just have you look at this. This is how stress impacts the brain, and it's really fascinating stuff. So let me just throw this up for the group.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst
Roy,
of
can you pause the video?
and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's
Right.
continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home,
Is that
affect
George? Can you see that?
its structure.
Not able to see it now.
Functions.
Not able to see it?
To the level of your genes.
You're not.
Stress begins with
Hold
something
on.
called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands
Now?
in the brain and on the kidneys.
Yes.
All right, can I just replay that?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, hold on. Sorry. Let me know. Can you see it?
Yes, you're good.
All right.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes, meaning that they affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
George, can you see that okay?
It's still in the video.
It's still the video?
Yes.
What about now?
You're good to go.
Thank you. So I love that video for many reasons, and I've used that video before the pandemic era that we're in. But I think it's really critical to point out that how we as parents navigate this crisis on behalf of our kids can really set the course for how they navigate future crises. And that's something that's really, really important. You know, how we, and it's hard because we're all navigating on foreign territory the same way as our kids are. So the unknown, the uncertainty, the drain of this, it all takes a toll. So taking care of ourselves is really the counterpoint to this. You know, finding someone to talk to, talking to friends, family members, making sure that we're exercising and eating properly, getting enough sleep, taking care of ourselves, not necessarily overdosing on media. Media is not necessarily the best thing to overdose. I mean, it's a balance. You want to do the best you can to stay informed, but it's also very important to try to incorporate other things in your life other than just media. Developing interests, you know, outside of certain things, and identifying what's important to you. It's important at this point in time, I think, you know, for us not to go down the blame area, not to blame others, not to make necessarily dramatic life changes, you know, not to work harder or longer, certainly not to fall into traps of self-medicating or using a lot of food for comfort, which is easy to do. Not neglecting your own interests, your own needs, or taking our frustrations, fears, and stress out on our loved ones. There's a simple approach, an ABC approach for managing stress, managing compassion fatigue. A is being aware of it. You know, I mean, we can't fix something that we're not tuned into. So I think we can all probably honestly acknowledge that the last, 10 months has been rough for everybody. You know, it's been something that no one really saw coming. And if someone said to you a year prior, hey, it's very likely that in a few months, everything in your life is going to be flipped upside down by a global pandemic, I think our mentality would be, that doesn't really happen. You know, it doesn't happen here. Now we can't say that anymore because this is global. So what types of cases contribute to stress level that increases our vulnerability to it? Certainly situations that we experience that last a long time, that create strong reactions, and that can overpower us and actually take away coping mechanisms. I think early on, especially when we were in the shutdown phase, people were really struggling because they didn't have a lot of the outlets that they came to use to manage their stress. Gyms were closed, different activities were closed, social events, you couldn't go out for dinner, go out to the movies, go out for drinks. And a lot of those things are still questionable, right? As we're finding our way through this to a new normal, it's important to find ways to connect with things that help you feel better. Are you aware of any of these other issues that contribute to your workday? Like the ability to function is interfered with or altered, or situations or incidents don't seem to be typical or ordinary. Compassion stress impinges upon or breaks through normal boundaries. Feeling that we're working harder but accomplishing less. I mean, I've certainly felt that over the last several months. Irritability, frustration, routinely feeling bored or disgusted. So we want to try to figure out, in the midst of where we are right now at this time in our life, for ourselves, in order to take good care of our kids, our loved ones, we want to find balance. And we need to balance things between work and home. We need to practice self-care, the activities that do bring enjoyment to you. For people, when you're feeling sort of confined or trapped and shut in, if you're an active person, that can be really hard on you. but finding ways to have outlets that are healthy for you. It's critical. Allowing yourself to take mini escapes to relieve the intensity or work from home. And we've done a lot of work to try to help staff and employees to navigate their stress, to not necessarily have an 8-hour workday be the traditional 8-hour workday, to work a little bit in the morning and then take an hour and a half break, and then jump back on virtual meetings, in the afternoon. If you're essential workers are working in person, doctors, nurses, first responders, they're on the front lines, grocery store workers, people who are working, in markets that help us continue to buy things that we need day to day. They have been, really the backbone of things, throughout this whole pandemic. And if you really are really struggling, there's no shame and no harm in seeking professional treatment. Right now, a lot of people are getting treatment in telehealth services, telemedicine services. You can see a physician, virtually. You don't have to go into the office. You can see a therapist virtually. You don't have to go into the office. A lot of the offices are still not open. So one of the things that you can do is you can increase access. There's lots of wonderful platforms that you can use. Doctor on Demand is one that you can get help right from the comfort of your own home, where you can talk to a professional therapist and have your insurance pay for that. So help is just, a click away. Making sure that you make a list of people, activities, or things that bring comfort and joy, and then also gratitude, I think, is a big part of what helps me get through my day. Just finding things that I can be grateful for. Grateful that, my kids can still, even though it's not ideal, they can still be connected to virtual learning. They can still be connected to their friends, their peers. Prior to the pandemic, I was, as many parents are, challenged with how much kids spend time online and with their friends. In the pandemic, I have made a conscious decision not to make that such a big deal, because that's one of the ways that they're primarily connecting, and being educated and continuing to relate. So granted, it's good to spend time in person with your kids and have them have some non-electronic time. I think that's very healthy. But I've kind of taken the foot off the gas a little bit with how much I've been restrictive with it. I've been more permissive with it because I've seen it keep my kids, connected. Think about things that also bring joy to you. We still have things that bring joy to us. It may be a little bit more challenging to find that, but what made you laugh today? Reading a funny joke, a story, talking to someone. I think humor is a good way of also engaging sometimes these situations to keep sanity in our life. Tap into things that you're passionate about. Identify things that really are meaningful to you. Balancing your life involves putting the things that we value and passion in our schedule. A lot of people have gotten away from that. We have to also focus on balancing not just, the things that bring happiness, but also balance our soul. Having quiet time, some downtime, having a place to retreat, having awareness, some mindfulness, things that, can kind of help us reboot and recharge, even if it's just something as simple as taking a bubble bath, or going down and running on a treadmill. These are all things that can really kind of help balance the core of who we are. And I can't emphasize the importance of connections, the importance to build and reach out to your support system, whether it's coworkers, clinician, clergy, friends, family, other neighbors. That all helps. It can help us process our thoughts and our reactions. They help keep us grounded in a time that has been very ungrounding. I also think, as many folks I'm sure has experienced, pets can absolutely be a wonderful distraction. And we too, back in October 3rd to be exact, we became one of those families that brought a puppy into our life. Okay. And I think my wife and I were just worn down from our kids kind of grilling us over how many of their friends were getting pets during COVID. So we eventually caved, as sometimes good parents do. And I have to say, over the last month, it's been kind of fun having a puppy in the house and really watching the kids engage and interact with the puppy, and trying to insist that they provide some care for the puppy other than just playing with it. But that's a longer journey. I think it's important to stay connected through the media outlets that we have, as well as checking in on those who are important to us. So Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to show this quick video, gives a very powerful, persuasive discussion that I think we need to tune into as parents. And that basically is this, is that we cannot give what we don't have. So the importance of self-care is highlighted in this video. George, please let me know if you can see it, okay?
We cannot see it, Troy.
Can't see it.
The truth is, you don't have anything
Now?
to give
Yes, you're good.
that you don't have. So you have to keep your own self full. That's your job. One of my daughters is here today from Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy. Stand up today so everybody can see you. You're going to end your first year soon. Oh my God, it's first year. I say to my girls all of the time that your real work is to figure out where your power base is and to work on the alignment of your personality, your gifts that you have to give, with the real reason why you're here. That's the number one thing you have to do, is to work on yourself and to fill yourself up and keep your cup full. Keep yourself full. Now, I used to be afraid of that. I used to be afraid, particularly from people who say, oh, she's so full of herself. She's so full of herself. And now I embrace it. I consider it a compliment that I am full of myself. Because you only when you're full, I'm full, I'm overflowing, my cup runneth over. I have so much to offer and so much to give. And I am not afraid of honoring myself. It's miraculous when you think about it. First of all, for me, my father and mother never married. They had sex one time underneath an oak tree because she was wearing a poodle skirt in 1953. And my dad, to this day, says, I want to know what's under that skirt. That's what I want to know. He wanted to know what was under the skirt. They didn't really have a relationship. She wanted one, but he went under the skirt and then that was it. And one time under the oak tree, bam, Renaissance.
Woman is born. It happened.
That's why I know my life is bigger than that. My life has to be bigger, as yours is, bigger than a poodle skirt. It's much bigger. The design, the reason why I'm here is much bigger than, I think I want to see what's under there. So the ability to take care of that, to honor yourself and that which is greater than yourself, that which was the reason for your being here. That there's no selflessness in that, because only through that do you have the ability to offer yourself, your whole self, your full expression of who you are to the rest of the world.
George, are you able to see this?
I still see the video.
Okay. I will switch it back. Are we good?
You're good.
All right. So the types of self-care that we should be concerned about engaging in and also helping our kids and family engage in would be physical self-care, social self-care, mental or emotional self-care, and spiritual self-care. So think about for a second how you've been taking care of yourself during this pandemic. And also think about the inverse. How have you not been taking care of yourself during this unprecedented pandemic? I've had friends that have talked about what they refer to as the COVID-15. I'm not sure why it's not COVID-19, but the COVID-15 is the 15 pounds that we're all going to gain because we are cooped up and not able to be active and home, a lot. So self-care is not optional. It's essential. And as we're looking at building resilience towards the stressors that we're feeling in life, we can't eliminate the situation that we're in, but we can certainly take steps to be more mindful about caring for ourselves and for our loved ones to equip us to navigate this. So physical self-care needs to really kind of focus on taking care of our body. If you want it to run efficiently, we have to be able to take care of it efficiently. Our body is a machine. Keep in mind that there's a strong link between mind and body. So when you're caring for your body, you're also feeling better emotionally, mentally. Physical self-care includes how we're fueling our body, what we're putting into it, how much sleep we're getting, how much activity we're getting. Making sure that we're still taking care of our physical health, attending appointments, taking medications if you're on them as prescribed, managing your health in all aspects, making sure that if you're diabetic, making sure that you're taking good diabetic care. If you're struggling with thyroid, making sure that you're doing the things you need to try to regulate the thyroid, and so forth and so on. So is your diet fueling your body well? I think it's a good opportunity for us to take charge of our health, because our health is one thing that we can control. We are making sure we're wearing masks when we go out. We're socially distancing. We're avoiding, large gatherings. So taking care of our health, very, very important at any time, even beyond just the situation that we find ourselves in. And then socialization, I think, is a very critical backbone to self-care. Staying close and keeping close connections is important to promoting our own emotional well-being. There isn't necessarily a certain number of hours that you need to devote to your friends or work relationships, and we all get to the point where we want to kind of shut down and just shut the world out. That's okay to do selectively, but it's really important to stay engaged. It's important to stay connected. It's very important to nurture the relationships with friends and family. And mental self-care. The things that we think about, the things that we're filling our mind with that influence our psychological health and well-being. It's important to stay mentally sharp and to try to keep our mind sharp. So continuing to do things like puzzles or even video games or game apps, connecting, with Sudoku, things like that, board games. These are all things that will help sharpen our mind. Reading, and certainly watching movies or engaging in some downtime activity is just good for decompression. Are you making time for activities that actually mentally stimulate you? And try to be proactive with keeping a good mental health. Spiritual self-care. And spiritual is a very wide definition. It doesn't necessarily mean religion, but trying to tune into some sense of spirituality, nurturing your spirit. It doesn't have to involve religion, as I said, but it can involve anything that helps you develop a deeper sense of meaning and understanding and connection to the world around you, to the universe at large. So whether you enjoy meditation or you enjoy attending outdoor services at your church, your place of worship, or whether you just enjoy praying, meditating, yoga, whatever. It's all part of taking care of yourself spiritually. So are you engaging in practices that are providing some nourishment, to your spiritual soul? And then emotional self-care. It's important to have healthy coping skills to deal with uncomfortable emotions. And we've all had uncomfortable emotions over many, many months. Anger, sadness, depression, it's all been in the mix. Fear, uncertainty, the stress of this situation, and the if and when and what will life look like when we get through this. And to reassure, we will get through this. But there will be lessons that we'll need to learn, and there's going to be some things I think that we're going to find will continue to sort of evolve and be very different than maybe what we were doing, 12 to 14 months ago. Develop a self-care plan. I think self-care plans are a commitment to doing things for you. If you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. If you don't have a target, you're not going to miss it. So self-care is not a one-size-fits-all strategy. It needs to be customized specifically to your day, to your commitments, and to your needs. Example, for a busy student or parent who feels mentally stimulated all the time and they have a bustling social life, their emphasis on physical self-care might need to be to unplug on a Friday or Saturday night, or to shut down all electronics and to say Saturday is an electronic free day. I'm not going to be touching anything. I'm not checking email. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just doing stuff for me, whatever that is, from making the coffee I like to, making sure I'm eating a nutritious breakfast, lunch, making sure I can go for a walk, whatever those activities are, it's important to you. You need to assess what areas in your life need some attention and self-care. And self-care is something that needs to be reassessed every day. When you discover that you're neglecting a certain part of your life, then you need to start recognizing a plan to deal with it, plan to change, because that can catch up with you, and it often does. We don't have to tackle everything at once. Sometimes it's just identifying one small step that you can take for yourself. And it can be anything from 20 minutes of exercise a day to I'm going to eat healthy, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday is going to be sort of a free day. So if I want to have cheesesteak, or if I want to have pizza, I'm not going to just resist that, but I'm not going to fall into unhealthy habits all the time. So really kind of focus on making your needs a top priority. I want to give just some samples of things that might be meaningful to you to try. You certainly don't have to. I mean, there's things that you may find great to do and things that you may not find great to do. But one of the things I would like to introduce you to tonight is what's called guided imagery. It's a great stress buster. Anything I show you can be found for free on YouTube, or you can also download some really cool apps. Like Headspace is a great app, and there's an app called Calm. And they give you a lot of guided imagery and a lot of mindfulness activities and meditations that can be anywhere from like 1 to 3 minutes, 1 to 4 minutes. So you don't have to dedicate a lot of time to feel good. So with that said, I'm going to jump to this mindfulness guided imagery activity. I'm going to have to jump to the, you probably can't see this yet. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, you're good.
Great.
Take a few slow, deep breaths and slow down.
Just close your eyes and listen.
As you free your mind from all unnecessary thoughts. You feel your mind being transported to a serene and tranquil environment. You're standing near a waterfall that's cascading down the mountainside. The air is warm and fragrant, with an aroma of sweet tropical flowers. There's the sound of exotic birds, a lush green surrounds you. As you enjoy the warmth of the sun, the sound of the waterfall. Now, stepping underneath the waterfall, you feel the water flowing from the top of your head and down your neck, across your shoulders, down your arms and hands, and then into the earth. You experience the water washing away all the tension from your body and your mind. Feeling fresh and invigorated. You step out of the waterfall and in your own time, make your way back to the room.
So that's just a quick 3-minute guided imagery exercise that takes minimal time to do. Are we back to my regular screen now?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. There's also a mindful meditation that you can do. So I want to practice this and just give you a little bit of a sneak preview on a mindful meditation.
A mindfulness meditation. During this meditation, we will focus on being mindful, finding that point where you are completely aware of the now. Breathe in through the nose to a count of 4 and out to the count of 6. Whatever thoughts come and go in your mind at this point, simply observe them as if from a distance. See them as coloured balloons, as separate from you, and let them go. Let them float away. You are present now. You are not controlled by your thoughts. You can acknowledge that they are simply that, thoughts. Be conscious of the beat of blood within you, of the rhythm of your breathing, the brush of clothing against your skin. Feel the surface on which you sit and how your body presses into it. Be aware of any scents that you can smell or colours that you can see. Notice the detail in the sounds you are hearing. Feel the temperature of the space you are in. Spend some moments simply being aware of all that is within you and around you right now, in this very moment. This is what it is to be mindful.
So that is a great mindfulness activity. Another activity that we can do together, and this is another 3-minute drill, is what's called progressive muscle relaxation. It's another quick thing. You can do this at home. You can do this in front of a computer. You can do this watching TV. And it's just very focused relaxation using what's called progressive muscle progression. So I'm going to play this quick video, and I want you to practice.
Hi, this is Curtis Simpson with Healthy Heart Meditation, and we're going to talk about progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR, as it's sometimes known. And the concept with progressive muscle relaxation is that if you tense a muscle and then you untense it, you're going to have relaxation follow. So if we tense the muscles in our body sequentially, we can get a really deep relaxation in the body. So we can start with the face, actually. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to inhale, and we're going to squinch the face up and try to hold that for about 8 seconds. And then we're going to relax those muscles in the face and just feel the energy and the relaxation just drain out of the face. Let's try that again. Inhale, squinch all the muscles in your face, even your ears if you can. And then relax. Next, let's do the shoulders and the neck. So I'm going to tense my shoulders and my neck, inhaling for about 8 seconds. And then I'm going to relax and exhale. Now we're going to move down to the chest and the abdomen area. So I'm going to flex or tense that area. Hold on an inhale. And then relax and exhale. Next, we're going to move into the lower body. And we can do this all at once. Let's try just tightening up our whole lower body, all the legs, thighs, calves. Inhale and try to keep the tension for about 8 seconds. And then release and exhale. Okay. And you should feel more relaxed already. And now let's just close our eyes and imagine standing under a waterfall. And imagine that water coming in through the top of your head and over the top of your body. And as you inhale, feel that water coming down on top of you and into you. And then exhale. And exhale that water down through your body and out through your fingertips and your toes into the earth below you. And then you can just become aware of your breath. Just take a few conscious breaths to finish this. Inhaling and exhaling. And you should feel much more relaxed, muscles in your body, your head. And this is a great way to relieve tension. And by relieving muscular tension, we can reduce the stress in our body. So that's called progressive muscle relaxation. And this is Curtis Simpson with Healthy Heart Meditation. Thank you.
So progressive muscle relaxation, another great strategy technique, does not take a lot of time to do. I actually will just do that before I go to bed. It takes about a minute, 2 minutes. You can do it quickly. And it really does kind of make you feel that you're targeting areas in your body where you're holding stress and you're just getting rid of it. Other stress busters, which many of you have done, and I want to encourage you to continue to do, can be walking, biking, running, anything in that arena, getting outside, connecting with nature. In my family, I have seen an increase in bakery goods that both of my daughters really got into baking in cooking. That has been mixed, obviously, as we're trying to eat healthier, but I have seen a little bit more bonding, between siblings occur during this. So there's some good stuff coming out of this. Aromatherapy, taking a bubble bath, for moms, doing your nails, getting your hair done was a big deal. Being able to get your hair done. Creating, being creative, using art, music, build, design, knit. My wife crochets, gardening. I did a lot of gardening and spent a lot of time in the backyard this summer, and writing and journaling. Healthy diet, making sure that what we're putting into our body is what our body needs. Obviously, reading and watching TV can just be, chill time. Positive self-talk, and that has been challenging sometimes. It's challenging to find things to be positive about. But I think incorporating positive self-talk to say, I'm going to get through today. We're going to be okay. We're going to manage this. We're going to continue to do the things we need to do to support, the family, our friends, one another. Other things that have been a lot more challenging now is like going to a yoga class or Reiki or massage. But those, when opportunities exist to bring those things back online, those are all very helpful things. And don't forget to hug. Request or give a hug to your loved ones. Not expecting you to do that to strangers, but we need to continue to connect that way. So as we're all navigating a lot of the stress brought on with hybrid learning and hybrid approaches, Brittany Newcomer, who is a master's level clinician, kind of recommended the following things that would be good for parents to do with their kids. So here are some concrete strategies that you can do, not only for yourself, but for your students of all ages, elementary, middle, high school. It is really, really important to set and maintain boundaries. Dealing with changes to routines and schedules has been challenging. Working from home blurs the line of when the workday starts and when the workday ends. It's important to adhere to a schedule that takes into account start and stop times, that also allows for some self-care practices and gives you breaks in the day. Same is true for our students. Students will use visual schedules or graphic organizers to organize information. Those same tools can help you process your thoughts and prioritize tasks. For example, with your kids, you can support them by using when-then statements. When you're able to do this, then you can do this. And we've been using this a lot with my kids at home, even before the pandemic. When you're done with geometry, then you can FaceTime your friends, But I think it's also good to do that to ourselves. When I hit 10 a.m., and I've already been doing, maybe an hour or two of work, I'm going to take a 5 or 10 minute break. I'm going to go outside and catch some fresh air. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to make sure that, I check on me and make sure that I'm doing okay. It's important to really reflect on our feelings and our needs. It's important to recognize and name whatever the emotions are that we're feeling. And when you're aware of new feelings, you have to take a moment and take pause and reflect. It's important to name the feeling and not only name it, but why we may be feeling that way. We're all feeling the lull and the wall brought on by COVID-19. And then there's other walls that we've encountered, during the last several months, the political times that we've been in. Just the uncertainty of, what tomorrow may bring in certain arenas. The civil unrest, and some of the social injustices that we've all been, listening, reading about, and navigating. So all that, kind of adds to the mix of what creates stress for all of us. You know, I'm feeling overwhelmed because there's a lot of information about how my curriculum will change. A lot of parents were feeling stressed with, you know, what school was going to look like, you know, back in August. It's really important that I think right now, one of the things that we need to remind ourselves is that we need to offer, I think, a lot of grace to one another. You know, my wife is a teacher. She's a sixth grade teacher for a different school district, but you know, teachers are doing the best that they can. Administrators are doing the best that they can. Parents are doing the best that they can. Kids are doing the best that they can. We're all trying to do the best that we can. We're all building the plane while we're flying it. So it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to necessarily be able to be what we would all hope and aspire it to be. But I can assure everybody that if we offer grace to one another and offer sort of sensitive approaches to this, it's going to make it a lot more palpable. And it's going to also be more of a win-win opportunity for families, for kids, for schools, et cetera, that, you know, we need to pull together to get through this extremely trying time and be sensitive to one another. And, you know, support your kids in advocating for themselves. You know, we've taken this opportunity of, you know, cyber learning to really push my 16-year-old that, you know, when she doesn't understand something, to set up additional time so she can meet with the teacher and connect with the teacher. Or, you know, if she's stuck and she really doesn't understand it, to come to us and we can try to coach her on how to connect, whether through email or through setting up, you know, additional time to meet with teachers. It's all part of growing up. It's all part of learning to advocate and to have a voice and find your voice. It's important also to take into account that as you're reflecting on your feelings, sometimes journaling helps. Sometimes art helps, music. I have a daughter who is very artsy. You know, she's very artistic. She has she's definitely gifted in sort of like when it comes to animation, and has gotten some nice recognition there. I see what it does to her if she goes a few days and she's not able to get on her iPad and do some cool artwork. So I encourage her to do her artwork because it helps her mentally. It helps her stay balanced and find things that are creative for her. Creative people need to stay creative. You know, I'm not a creative person. I live with creative people, so I've learned this. Take time for yourself each day, and to make sure that we do things also that are not completely technology related. You know, Stephanie Doyle's a third grade language arts teacher who teaches in Roanoke, Virginia, and she advised, you know, parents and kids, you know, get outside, take a walk, read your favorite book, go on a hike, exercise. Game night. You know, we had the opportunity back in June that we reinstituted something we used to do when our kids were little. Then they got older and it wasn't cool to do anymore, but now it's cool again as we instituted Wednesday night as family game night, where we do board games. And anything from Clue to, you know, Uno to Sorry to whatever. But, you know, we've been doing that ritual now for several months, and, you know, it's been fun. The kids are really, you know, reconnected to it. Recognize what's in your control. I think we've all felt and experienced the things that are outside of our control, but sometimes when you focus on what's out of your control, you miss all the things that you can control. I can't always control what happens around me, but I can control my response to it. I can control my attitude. I can control my action or reaction to something. With a rapidly changing world and the sudden shifts that have happened because of COVID-19, you know, worry and anxiety is skyrocketed. It's through the roof. I was on a conference call last week with a large national insurance company for my role. And one of the things that they noted was that telehealth services and telemedicine services across the country has increased 7,000% since March of 2020. Think about that, 7,000% increase across the country in people accessing therapy online or medicine online or online activities to try to help navigate the stress and strain that they felt. So we might be learning how to meet the needs of our family and our children who think and learn differently during distance learning. One thing that is in our control is to keep an open line of communication with teachers, to keep an open line of communication with guidance counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, director of special ed services, you name it. But in order to navigate and to support each of our kids effectively, we just have to make sure that we maintain an open line of communication and I think a respectful line of communication because of the stress and strain that we're all under. And that goes both ways. So encourage kids to think about, again, the best way to advocate for their needs. It's easy for me to, phone a teacher. I haven't done that since 6th grade. Once my kids hit middle school, my wife has started working on them advocating for themselves. In some families, in some situations, if you have kids that are, on a 504 IEP, we know that sometimes parents need to maintain that level of advocacy. But the most that you can kind of let your kids navigate the waters and learn, it just builds resiliency in them. It builds confidence in them. It builds security in them. It builds trust in them. My daughter had an issue with her geometry teacher. Okay, and after 3 or 4 nights of her venting and us trying to give her guidance, it was more like, well, so what are you going to do to fix it? How are you going to handle this? How are you going to navigate it? And she set up a couple of meetings, and they were well received. And I saw a change in her. Like she kind of felt like, hey, there was a problem and I fixed it. That's good. That's what we want our kids to do. We want them to be productive in that to the best of their ability. Everything I'm sharing is also taken into account age appropriate, so if you're dealing with little ones, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, that's a whole different ball game. So yeah, parents certainly navigate for themselves. But, when you're dealing with middle school kids and high school kids, we really want to try to promote the most that we can to get them to advocate for themselves. Continuing to focus on what's in your control, it's okay to be vulnerable. And to be okay with saying that you don't know something. I mean, I've had that opportunity to do a lot the last 10 months. My kids have asked tough questions, when will we go back to the way things were? I don't know. And that's a tough answer to give. Will we go back to the things, how life was? I will say things like, probably not. It's not going to be quite the same. It's going to look different. Not sure what different looks like, but we're going to figure it out together. It's okay to learn through these difficult times. We've all had plenty of opportunities to build resilience over the last several months. I can't say enough about gratitude, being grateful for the little things, being grateful for the small wins, look for moments of joy and connection and hold on to them. We pulled out vacation books that my wife, every year after a vacation, she'll put together like a photo album, usually through it's not Snapchat, but some kind of, stellar internet, creative outlet. So she'll put these books together, and we have probably 10 years of vacations, close to 20 books, I guess. And my kids spent time this summer pulling those books out where we couldn't travel, go, or do anything really awesome or cool. And they remembered Disney, or they remembered Universal, or they remembered when we went here, or we went to visit my family in Michigan. And that was awesome. I mean, that was like reminiscing. And sometimes, that is healthy to think about, the positive, fun things, and sharing those moments. It's important, again, that we use self-care throughout the day. We talked a little bit tonight about guided imagery or mindfulness, breathing relaxation activities, progressive muscle relaxation. These are all very, very helpful to sort of like balance the stress that we're under. Teachers are struggling and need processing time with a lot of shifts. This is Lauren Jewett, fourth grade special ed teacher in New Orleans. This can be tough, so I'm trying to encourage parents and students to be patient and practice mutual empathy during this time. And I love that. I think that we need to be highly empathetic, until we can kind of find our footing and see the light that will come at the end of the tunnel that we're in. It is really, really, really important. And I've had a lot of friends that have fallen into being news junkies. They've watched, it doesn't really matter the channel, MSNBC, Fox News, CNBC, CNN, and just regular news channels. They just stay glued to it. It's exhausting to do that. So I think one of the best ways to reduce your stress is to cut some things out of your life. Now, it's important to stay informed. It's important to stay aware and to stay connected. But if I watch 10 minutes of a particular news channel, they'll spend 3 hours just repeating the same information over and over again. I think within 10 minutes, I pretty much have an idea of what's going on. I can certainly read. I can get briefs sent to me, short articles. I can sign up for, the AP News does a nice summary of things that I can fly through in 15 or 20 minutes reading. That doesn't quite impact me at the same emotional level. Some of it is still emotional, but you're not always getting all the other pomp and circumstance that comes along with the news. So watching the news and being constantly connected to digital devices, drinking alcohol, consuming too much caffeine, these are habits that we want to try to make sure that we're not overdosing in. So make sure that we're doing what I would call just moderate dosages. Some tips to manage students transitioning and families back into school full-time, or even to manage if we have to go virtual again, which is an unfortunate conversation that many counties are holding and many districts are holding. And the answer is, we don't fully know, but we need to be prepared for both. We need to be prepared for the inevitable full-time return to school in the near future. We certainly have been navigating a hybrid school approach, and we need to be prepared to go completely virtual again for periods of time. So for young people to engage and learn, we need to create environments that really promote a positive sense of well-being and healthy connections between peers and adults. There's been a lot more thrust on families right now, but I could also argue that there's been a lot more thrust on teachers too. So it's really important to focus on secure relationships, on creating emotional safety at home, and prioritizing things, and also keeping an eye on the academic gains and the academic struggles that our kids are having. There's a book that I used to recommend to parents. I've worked with kids for 27 years, and it's still a really good book. It's called Parents Are Teachers. It doesn't negate the importance of teachers being teachers, but it also says, hey, if our kids are engaged in learning, we have to be engaged in teaching too, and reinforcing and working together. And the best way that that's done is always in partnership with you, your son, your daughter, your child, teen, young adult, and the school themselves. So prioritize really strong two-way communication between families and schools. It's even more important now. Communication is critical, and it's important to know as school buildings are closed, as school buildings are half open, as school buildings may close again, we're finding our kids spending the entire day at home or in their neighborhoods. And it just means that we need to work harder to promote success and to feel successful, and also to promote support and to navigate the waters that we're in. Very, very important. We have to continue to work and strive to foster and promote mutual well-being for one another. So all educators, community partners, parents, and others who touch the lives of young people are equally experiencing disruption in their own life. And they're also having stress and anxiety and uncertainty. And we have to pay attention to our own social emotional needs in order to be the community of adults who best serve our young people. So practicing continued self-care strategies is critical, and it can help us navigate feelings of negativity, feelings of being overwhelmed. It can help us reframe how we think and better support not only ourselves, but our loved ones. And then it's critical to foster supportive adult relationships, to process emotions and share challenges. Just in my path, I don't know anybody who does not believe that the situation that we're in is anything less than horrible, challenging, a drain, and a struggle. Okay, but we can't necessarily allow ourselves to fall into that pit of despair or defeat, because it won't serve any useful purpose in navigating the waters. The best way to navigate the waters is rowing the boat in the same way. And it's okay to struggle with this. It's okay to need validation, to support. It's okay to blow it and to recognize that I just blew it with my son or daughter. I flipped out on them about something, or I overreacted about something. But when you blow it, when you catch yourself blowing it, fix it. Go back and say, hey, can we talk about an hour ago? I think I was a little bit over the top. I was too hard on you. I really overreacted. And I know that for most families, we can resonate with stories about how the last several months has put additional strain sometimes on ourselves and our relationships with those who we love. So build in space for connection and mutual support. It's good sometimes to, have peers, other parents to bounce things off of. When I talk to other parents, I find that they're struggling with the same things my family is. It's important to promote social and emotional learning with students. So whenever possible, we want to try to provide consistency in daily routines to foster a sense of safety and predictability. This is important to do at home as well as school. So for parents and caregivers, I think it means maintaining a clear schedule, trying to adhere to sort of like normal things, normal meal times, learning, homework, bedtime, structure. Structure is really good at any time. Making sure that they're logging on, that they're connecting, that they're navigating the platforms well, that they're checking and double checking to make sure that they're not missing anything. And then, check in with their day. Every night when we're at home, when I'm at home with my wife, we check in with the kids, what their school day was like. And we get pretty much the same answers that we got when they were in brick and mortar settings every day, but we push more for information, and the kids do open up. Listen to your kids, listen to their concerns, listen to what they're struggling with. Try to help engage them, support them in building a sense of community and feeling connection. It's very easy to fall into isolation. It's very easy for kids to stay in the room. And for a lot of kids, we know they were doing that before COVID-19. Now this is even easier. So pushing them out, we have rules that, we encourage our kids to co-quarantine with other kids that we know the families were connected to, so they can spend some time. My daughter will go to the park with a friend. We try to have a rule that you need to do something social with your friends at least, once every other week. And if they're not comfortable getting together, then you can do something over line. So my oldest daughter is a gamer. She loves video games. She'll do online video games, and it's really socialization disguised as a video game, because I can hear her laugh and talk, and her friends are online and they're doing it together. And again, that's ways of coping and managing in this time. So we have to make sure that we're constantly encouraging skill building, collaborating, communication, self-awareness, and acknowledging that this situation, I'm going to be very frank, sucks for all of us. But again, together, we're going to find our way through it. Assess how things are going and make adjustments. I mean, the worst thing to do is to continue to do the same things over and over again if they're not working. Education in the time of a long global pandemic is a total new experience for all of us, and it's easy to get lost in the flow of new information and resources. So I think one of the most valuable sources of information about what is and isn't working will come from our kids, students, families, and the wider community and stakeholders. And certainly educators know what works and what doesn't work better, being into this several months now. And trying to look closely at data, and we're going to learn from data and how to maximize distance learning and how to plan and support with the next level and analyze. And we're going to try to look through things with a lens of equity to best meet the needs. And all of this takes time. Parents and caregivers, could keep a log of things that go well, a log of things that work. And then you can communicate that in a constructive way to the schools in a partnership to really kind of help apply this new learning environment to the best of our ability. There's also the ability to create our own self-care plan. And when you're doing a self-care plan, you're trying to write down intentional times in the day that I can take care of myself, and specifically addressing what I will do. And again, I think it can start in the morning when you wake up, that I'm going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to sit downstairs in a nice quiet environment before my kids wake up. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'm going to check maybe some email or some social media that's just pure entertainment. Maybe I listen to a guided imagery 3-minute video or a mindfulness activity, or I just close my eyes and take some deep breaths, try to contemplate the day ahead. And then what do I do 2 hours later? And then what do I do 2 hours later? And what do I do 2 hours later? And what do I do, right before I go to bed? That is intentional self-care. And it's just critical to focus on intentional self-care to the best of our ability. So with that said, there is a bunch of resources that are attached to this that deals with everything from transitioning to school, from dealing with concerns around mental health, emotional well-being, social well-being, resilience, navigating hybrid approaches. I mean, I chocked full a ton of links, a ton of resources that can support parents in just not only the self-care that you need, but also sometimes imposing that on our kids too. So without further ado, I think I'm going to open it up, if it's okay, George, open it up now to see if there are any questions or if there are any other comments that we'd like to touch on for the duration of our time.
Troy, this is Kara Miller. I think that we're good tonight. I think you really hit on every angle and every aspect. I thoroughly enjoyed it as well as a parent. So thank you for your time tonight. Thank you, community members that have joined us tonight. And we hope that you found this helpful as we continue to move forward with this pandemic and just life in general. So we thank you.
Thank you. All right. Stay strong, everybody.
You too. Bye-bye.